All right, today we're going to dive into the metaverse in a big way. As you guys know, we're starting to bring you more and more content really circling around the metaverse. And the idea is to do it from our new show that is really focused in on metaverse topics, gaming, NFTs, all that kind of stuff. And today is going to be an interesting one, and that is going to be talking about Namco and their metaverse and kind of the evolution of what really is happening in the space. And today, of course, joining me live on the show is going to be fun. We'll have him back, and that's Mirko Dölger. But anyway, welcome in to the metaverse. All right, let's get started today and talk a little bit about kind of the evolution of what's happening with Namco. And I want to bring on our guest, and that's Mirko Dölger of Unix Gaming. Great to have you back, Mirko.
Hey, Paul. Nice to be back, and it's a pleasure to explore the metaverse today.
Yeah, and we got you back at a better time because I know the last time we had you, it was like in the middle of the night for you guys. So we've kind of adjusted our schedule, and it's a better time. And I think everybody will be fresher, for some of these things for sure.
For you, Paul, I also get up at 2 a.m. in the morning. That's not a problem.
I like it. Hey, listen, let's get into this first story. And this is the topic of Bandai Namco changing they changed their logo, but the bigger story is they're moving in on a pretty significant investment on the metaverse. Now, we're seeing this come across from a lot of different gaming companies, and also just in general, a lot of companies, brands, a lot of companies that are starting to look at even new business models within the metaverse and potentially how that might roll out. What are your thoughts on someone like, Bandai Namco, who is really focused in now on putting $130 million US into development for the metaverse?
I think it's perfect strategic move, especially for long-term plays. I mean, there's many companies like Bandai Namco. I think they're preparing their IPs, what they have or what they own,
right,
to enter in the metaverse on a longer run. When also technology, AR is more established. But getting already the first step into it, allocating funds and investing in projects or building on their projects to basically make them metaverse ready. I think you will see that more and more often, and we had this in other shows. All the big companies, Samsung, for example, open a store in Decentralized, and you will see more and more shift from, let's say, outside of the metaverse and trying to sneak in now. And this is not a sneak in. This is more like already, okay, $130 million US. That's a big move. Yeah.
Well, I think the key here is that, and a lot of people whether you're investing in NFTs, digital assets, or you're going into games, maybe you're getting into gaming within blockchain and you're looking at play to earn, maybe jumping on, to a platform like Unix, from a guild side of things. But what the point is that it's really presenting a very interesting strategy across a lot of these companies that are starting to move in this direction. And here's my question, because we did a show yesterday on really what was happening with Meta and their evolution, how quickly they've been able to kind of reshift their focus toward metaverse activities, especially around development in terms of technology. My question to you would be this: do you think a Bandai Namco can make enough of an impact on really true, like what they're trying to do here? Let's just kind of go to the story here. The Gundam Metaverse, they're talking about video game, obviously, 130 million to develop a metaverse featuring, this is going to be going with their battle robots and other characters from its flagship Gundam franchise. Here's my question. Do you think this is just a press move to try to move some of this branding into what could be a scenario, or do you think this is a strategic move that maybe be looking at maybe like a decade out plan of slowly shifting more and more into the metaverse and NFTs?
No, I think it's because metaverse doesn't mean also still you can divide it into regions on like Korea
Right.
and
Yeah.
for example, Asia. And I think they building the metaverse really in maybe in the Asian part. They're not looking maybe to build a metaverse where in other regions. There's many games that only exist, for example, in Korea or
Right.
in Japan. So I think with the move in the metaverse, they need their one audience, and with $130 million and with the Gundam franchise, they can definitely build that out, and it's super popular in the especially animes and all these cartoons. They're super popular on that side of the globe, and it's definitely will benefit them long term to step already in the metaverse
Yeah.
right now. So
One of the things that we're seeing more and more is this whole brand convergence that seems to be occurring, because you don't typically see some of this yet in what I call the pure play blockchain projects that we've seen start to roll out. And what I mean by that, for instance, with Bandai Namco, they're looking at bringing in a lot of their IP into the space, branding IP. So these are going to be characters, all sorts of different aspects of what I'm assuming would eventually be digital assets. Right now, with a lot of the games that are, it's like Axie. If you could have Axie Affinity and they had licensing for their Axies, or you had licensing beyond the game itself, this is what we're seeing from the bigger houses that are really kind of creating more of a global phenomenon for users to interact. Do you think that the blockchain games that are out there are yet to really kind of release their whole IP strategy, branding, merchandise, all those kind of things, partnerships, all of that coming into it? Or do you think we're still a little bit ways behind some of the traditional houses that are already doing this?
I think they preparing the IPs to basically when there is demand on them, and I'm not talking about now, like let's say all the let's say for game developers in Korea, for example, or comics and artists and so on. So the IPs are set now, ready to go, let's say, in the metaverse through blockchain and so on. And then once the demand is there, then they basically can easily get license or distribute license for their IPs, and they can say, and this is a kind of statement, we are already in the metaverse, and all basically the whole company and all the IPs together.
Yeah. To that point, back to the story here, they're talking the Gundam Metaverse will be a mechanism for us to more deeply connect with the fans. And this was the president that talked about this from Bandai Namco, adding that the company plans to create metaverses for its other franchises down the road. So the clarity is that they are moving this toward a global approach. I mean, when I say global, I mean global within the brand itself, all assets starting to deploy out. How long before you think we'll see some of the bigger players in AAA gaming, and also maybe in other major markets outside of the gaming industry, really go all in? I mean, obviously Meta, Facebook, they've done it. They've went all in. We understand the direction of the company now. They've clearly drafted out kind of a 10-year and a 20-year plan for what they're trying to do. But a lot of companies are still in the very early stages. Do you think this is going to happen this year for major brands and major studios, or do you think it might be 2023?
I think it's 2023 or maybe even 2024, because it's still, like, we're talking to so many games, and also games, they just coming into the metaverse, basically on our acceleration side. So we also helping basically people getting into the space, and they're coming, and we really tell them like the one-on-one in crypto and teaching about NFTs basically. And then this is totally new business for a lot of developers. Of course, I mean, major platforms, let's say Blizzard Entertainment, with major, I mean, everybody knows World of Warcraft, Diablo, all these games. They will get the right people on board to make it happen. But still, it's like, this will be definitely, once they will release a AAA title, that's gonna be shine, and it's just a question, what they're planning to build. Because in for example, you mentioned Meta, okay, with Facebook, we know already they're like have a monopoly kind of, yeah, with Instagram as well, with WhatsApp in their companies. And what Meta actually want to build, are they want to building a real open, decentralized
Right.
metaverse, or they're having the metaverse, so you can trade NFTs, but only inside Facebook. So there is the question, what is the big players really have in mind going into the metaverse? So is still, I think, very interesting to follow the trends for the next 2 years. And anyway, like I would say 5 years, we have a lot of happenings in the metaverse.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I do see, from a strategic standpoint, because a lot of these companies are thinking 5, 10, 20 years out, especially if you think about Bandai Namco, the Japanese, they're very strategic in their overall planning of many of their business entities. I was looking at this statement right here. It says, in this IP metaverse, we're anticipating virtual spaces that will enable all customers to enjoy, all their IP aspect. But really what they're talking about is distinctive strengths to fuse physical products and venues with digital elements. So this does go back to the point of many of these companies looking at in real world assets that they think that can essentially be tokenized and moved into either digital asset classes or potential, aspects around entertainment experiences, all those kind of things. So I think there's a lot moving in that direction. What do you think will be the first real big kind of watershed moment for the metaverse? Do you think it's going to be a game, or do you think it will be some kind of entertainment venue, or some sort of digital asset that's released? Think of it almost in the essence of like a Pokemon Go type scenario that just takes the world by storm. What are your thoughts on what's going to be the breakout moment for metaverse?
I think it depends a little bit where, because I think, for example, Tokyo, Japan, the adoption will be way easier. And because like
Yeah.
if you see the people cosplay or all the animes, people dressing like their favorite cartoon character. We don't have that in Europe or in the US, only on conventions. But I think a social platform, what basically link, it's kind of, it need to be like so easy accessible, and it can be a game, but I think a social platform like Instagram, and think about like all your pictures could be now an NFT. Yeah. And NFTs are the new pictures, so no
Yeah.
more people not uploading their Instagram pictures anymore. So it's really like it's about having NFTs, and I think a very like social friendly platform. I think that will make the big adoption. And I see that more in the NFT space, as you see like the Bored Apes, they've been everywhere, like
Right.
in US talk shows and so on. And I think there's the adoption, and it's more like it's because NFTs are like a status. Okay, it's becomes like having an NFT becomes like the new, let's say I need to have the Gucci shirt or these Nike shoes, and what young people and the generation wants is like identification for themselves. And this, I think,
Hmm.
that's the social point, and I think there's where the mass adoption will happen. But of course, games is it's a perfect vehicle to have long term or
Right.
driving economies. So there's like, you need to differentiate, because gamer is gamer, and there's like, and if you like this two type of people, right? So and games will drive definitely the mass adoption as well. But I think the social part is it's where it's happened. Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked to, we actually mentioned that yesterday on one of the episodes we cut with, the topic of meta is that the social tokens and the social aspect of what could happen in the metaverse is really going to be a very interesting component, especially because there's an opportunity, I think, for brands to get involved from a loyalty aspect among many other strategies they're talking about. You mentioned when you get in and you start thinking about metaverse tool sets, because I think a lot of people, when they saw the first era of mobile mobile use cases when the iPhone was evolved, what we saw in social media kind of developing in the mid 2000s, even the early stage of the internet, a lot of times people did not really understand some of the use cases and also the business formats that would be essentially rolled out. This is a story coming over from CoinDesk talking about Pantera and Polychain, who is leading a $10 million bet on the metaverse fashionistas. This is all focused again back on brand awareness from a fashion standpoint. And we've seen Artifact involved, we've seen Nike start to make moves. What are your thoughts about how that could implement into the gaming ecosystem from a fashion standpoint within the metaverse?
I mean, fashion is when you're not gaming, and then for a gamer going outside of the house, it's not so often. But still, if you put your clothes on and you can basically identify, it's about an ID basically. And then I
Right.
think fashion and Pantera, it's definitely one of the, I would say, tier zero investors, and they know where they put their funds in, and fashion, especially with the AR component. Yeah, let's say you have them on your phone, you can watch them, and the AR shopping experience, I think, is
Mm-hmm.
definitely something what is way underestimated. E-commerce was booming like never been before during the pandemic,
Yep.
and now having, let's say, an AR or VR shopping experience, I think this is something what everybody will participate. Doesn't mean you need to be a gamer, and I think it's a huge upside for all brands who joining now, because on the point of the mass adoption they already established. I think catching
Right.
the train when it's like almost too late, I wouldn't say too late, but you already yeah, you miss a whole part. And I think big companies, they should allocate energy and employees in the
Just
metaverse,
to this.
or at
Yeah.
least adoption. And
I was looking at just the lineup here. It says Metaverse, obviously Space Runners. They raised 10 million in a fund. Round was co-led by Polychain, obviously Parentera. But look at the additional seed round and angels, which was Excel, Jump Crypto, also angels like Animoca, and also Twitch. So I think everybody sees the future of where this is coming. I'm just curious as to how much money, and I always kind of liken this back to the dot bomb era because there's so much innovation happening. You and I were talking about this before the show. The number of blockchain companies, whether it's gaming, aspects around entertainment, which I think will be coming very fast, even though that is an underserved category, I think right now in the metaverse, there's just a handful of companies that have really been able to crack the code for that. What are your thoughts on when is there going to be a potential, or do you see a potential, not necessarily meltdown, but a potential maybe convergence of a lot of these projects, whether it's gaming, maybe fashion angles, entertainment angles within the metaverse? Or do you think we're still just too early? It's just we're going to continue to see a lot of people throwing investment up against the wall and see what works.
mm, uh, I would compare it maybe with the in the beginning of DeFi. There've been so many protocols, and
Right, right.
some of them you don't know anymore. Like everybody
Hmm.
wanted to do something, and I think it's with everything. If you build something, if you see NFTs, for example, there's the real collections with the solid team behind, and art and utilities, and then it's just copycats, I would say, or yeah, this another 10,000 NFT lines. So you will see a lot of these projects. Everybody try to make a buck here, I would say.
Yeah,
And I think it's very clear looking at the teams, I think, and seeing people who improve and really put their heart in, and not only thinking from the financial side. In that state we are at the moment, because we're so early. So because the journey is very with there is a goal, but we don't know where the journey, like how the journey goes, and then
yeah.
we just need to find out. And while we exploring, I would say, I would call it like that. Then you will, and again, the companies who will improve on the way with the learnings for the next years, they will be they will be still there, and there will be a lot of people who might get
I,
hit the fallout.
Yeah, and I think there are going to be some big winners, whether it's a company like Space Runners. I was looking at their design here. I mean, listen, this would be
Yeah,
a cool shoe. This would be a cool shoe just to wear today outside. So, but the fact that we'll see some of this innovation, I just wonder if we're going to start to see fashion and even entertainment tactics bleed over back into real world. So, what could happen in the metaverse actually reverses and has impact on maybe on entertainment venues, how social media is used. Obviously, design and fashion could also be influenced by just the creativity that we're seeing in the metaverse. So it's going to be fun to watch, that's for sure. What are your thoughts on when you look at growth? Because this is something we've seen people start to put numbers on the metaverse in terms of the overall size of it. And I mean, it's in the billions. We're seeing now people talking about multi-trillion industries. Obviously, if we see massive adoption by major brands, and especially if we see other practical uses around productivity, it could really change the kind of the strategy of how a lot of companies go to market with products. Do you think that we will see a massive adoption period in 2022, or do you think that more from, and I'm talking about the non-blockchain companies today?
I think 2022 is still too early for a non-blockchain. I mean, like in the
Yeah.
blockchain, we will see a lot of, I think, innovations, because that's the time also, like
Hmm.
we had play to earn X Infinity. That was basically version 1 of the metaverse, or the play to earn space, or play and earn space. And then we will have version 2, version 3, and then like we will see many more versions. The economy is getting better. But yeah, for non-blockchain, I think you will see fashion, I think, more, and music joining, but like the rest is like, it's a more a marketing trick,
Yeah.
basically. That's what it's my
Yeah.
personal opinion. Yeah.
I looked at this story right here. Metaverse will take away social media king title from live streams. Obviously, we're talking about the titans of the world, including our own channel here, which is YouTube. And the scenario they're talking about is kind of just this whole aspect of live streaming through different sorts of AI augmented reality tools, which could be very interesting especially within a metaverse. Again, I think the key there is going to be mass adoption, because if you look at what's happening on Twitch is a great platform if you are a gamer, but if you're trying to bring other content into Twitch, it's a very slow road up the process of getting an audience, versus if you go into YouTube or even onto social media and utilize, whether it's a TikTok format or something like a Twitter Spaces or even Twitter live streams, at least you have the ability to reach larger audiences that have these splintered out, narrow interest areas. Do you think the metaverse will make it into the ability to have truly a live stream presence from a mass adoption side?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the one vehicle to transport the best information. Like
Hmm.
you get, especially there's so many people. Like if you think now, you have influencers, yeah, on in Instagram, and
Yep.
then what to do there on the live stream. I mean, at the moment it's just like, let's say Web 2.0, but let's say there is more and more interaction into the blockchain, metaverse, NFTs. There is already companies who offering basically streaming, and you get like there's token rewards for that,
Right.
and I think streaming to showcase, and if you see, let's say, how Twitch growth and Netflix also, how much they grow these all these platform who do something with streaming. And okay, Netflix is not live stream, but I think for people to communicate, it's the best way. And it was always be and is the highest goal for on the gaming side, to
Hmm.
have a stream, basically. And yeah, and for the influencer side, it's just a matter, like when their influencer join the metaverse, and then what tools he use, like because, for example, Snoop Dogg is for me one of the biggest metaverse influencers out there. Yeah, I mean, like Gala Music, Sandbox. It's like you see him everywhere. And if there's possibilities to use more tools to support that, yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the cool part of it is we'll start to see new business models, I think, develop, whether it's tokenizing content, tokenizing experiences within the metaverse for access, all sorts of things. That could happen not only with, video and podcast brands, but also with movies, music, many other aspects around artists, creative artists, that really could kind of create a very unique thing when it comes to live streaming. Because if you can imagine live streaming concerts, if a Katy Perry concert goes into the metaverse, they've got NFT gear, maybe they've got in real world experiences that are tied to this through a live streaming mechanism inside. There's just so many opportunities there. I'm really extremely bullish on how that may roll out for the future. So I would agree with you on that. Now, when you think about what is happening though within not only gaming but also across all aspects of really kind of this convergence of what we've seen from Web 2 to Web 3. One of the key, I guess, struggles that I think a lot of people are trying to figure out now is centralized versus decentralized. And I was looking at this article right here, why the future of metaverse can only be decentralized. Now, you look at what Meta is doing. They're essentially creating somewhat of a centralized metaverse for their own tool set. But even so, if you look at Sandbox, even to an extent, maybe Axie Infinity, very centralized within their own rights. What are your thoughts about how decentralization will actually take place? Or do you feel like people are just talking a big talk right now, and eventually this goes to centralized metaverses that are out there in the spaces like what we've seen in Web 2, or do you think there really will be a decentralized format?
I think decentralization is the goal, but we even now, and we not talk about the decentralized metaverse, because most of the projects at the moment, they are not decentralized. There's like
Exactly.
still to become decentralized, you need to be centralized. And then basically, if you have the goal to become decentralized, that should be the aim. And then we see, I think for the metaverse, and this is something you mentioned, Meta. So people in that metaverse from Facebook, what is centralized, but let's say if the popularity of decentralized metaverses gives the owner and gives you much more value, then there will be a shift, I think, and Meta still have a core of user, but I think the decentralization in the long run is the ultimate. It have to be like
Right.
that, for also in my opinion. And you can do that with DAOs, with smart contracts. And I think that's why we're talking about blockchain. That's why we talk about Web 3.0. It's not about there's no middleman. It's like, it's really, we have an awesome technology. Still we improve, but smart contracts are the solution for a lot of things. And having
Sure.
now NFTs as an ID and a token as a currency. So there's so many things now, and yeah, it's just needs a little bit more time that to get there.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So again, Mirko, thanks again for stopping in on the show today. We'll wrap this one up. I like the focus of where we're going with really understanding the business side behind metaverse in general, and what that can mean to a lot of different businesses, especially from the gaming side of things as we start to develop on this. But again, thanks for stopping in. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. See you next time.
Excellent. All right, so you guys are tuned in over on the podcast side here on Metaverse Insider. This, of course, is the show that is going to break down all things metaverse gaming. We get into a lot of depth around the investment side of the investment class itself as well, so make sure and tune in. But the best thing to do is just jump over to the YouTube channel, search Paul Barron Network. You'll find all of our shows over there, Tech Path Crypto, which is our lead show. Obviously, Metaverse Insider here on this new set. You'll see a lot more content coming out of this. And then, of course, if you have an idea or you have comments on what we should be talking about, maybe you got some new innovations, just hit us in the comments below or reach us out on Twitter. And that's at Paul Paul Barron. You'll be able to catch me out there, and we'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.